What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. In this video, week 3 start sits. We're going to go over all of your questions in the chat room, and I will kind of go over the player news as we do this. I kind of changed things up a little bit. I already put out a video covering all of the week 3 start sits, so if you guys want to check that out separately, I covered all of this, the charts there for you, so I gave all the information there. Tonight's mainly for your guys' questions. We got Harris in the chat room. Good evening to you, my man. No problem, man. This is what it's for, man. We're going to answer all your questions. Good evening to Justin as well. Hope you're doing very good too. Let's see here. He's got good Yahoo game, DFS lineup, $200. Joe Burrow, Damien Pierce, Clyde, Waddle, Hill, Brandon Cooks, Travis Kelce, Damian Harris, Houston defense, PPR. I like the Houston defense call. So I got this chart here that basically tells us the spreads, the team totals, and the total within the whole game. And the Houston Texans, man, they're not projected to score a lot of points, but either are the Bears. So I think there's a legit chance that they can hold them to 1 or 2 touchdowns, and they're probably going to be in for maybe a turnover or 2, maybe a special team. So I like the defense call. I think it's Kelce week. I also think with half PPR, I mean, Damien Pierce, I think this is the week to play Damien Pierce. He dominated the touches last week, and Rex Burkhead didn't get a single carry. So I'm into Pierce. I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to come out firing. They need to win to get their season on track. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, good play against the Colts. And then the Waddle Tyreek Hill conversion is pretty fun. Brandon Cooks, again, going into the Texans. I don't mind that. I think that's going to be quite a unique lineup. And then Damien Harris going up against the Baltimore Ravens. He looked good last week. He got the touchdown. I think he's good. So for a half PPR, I like this group. Who do I pick up to drop Matt Ryan? Let's see. Non-PPR. Jared Goff, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd. Okay, I personally, I think Tyler Higby is a must-own tight end. Like, if you need a tight end, he is the clear tight end here that I like. Who do I pick up to drop Matt Ryan? Assuming you have a good quarterback already. If you don't have a quarterback, I think Jared Goff's a very nice option this week. In because it is non-PPR, I don't care for a lot of these receivers. I think Dotson's nice. But I was talking with Justin earlier today. One of my favorite strategies is to hold 2 defenses. I like to take a look ahead and see what's going on for future weeks. And with the Chargers, they play Houston Texans next week, so I think that could be really nice. So I would look at it that way. If you need QB, go with Goff. If you need a defense for this week and next week, the Chargers getting Jacksonville and Houston the next 2 weeks, that might be a sharp move there. Otherwise, holding on to Dotson might be a good spot. Who could I get in a trade for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? So it's a good potential sell high moment on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think for where people were drafting him, like maybe 7th, 8th round, you might be able to get, a 4th or 5th round value for him. Let me just pull up the running backs here. And I just want to see, let's position him by rank here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, currently RB5. He's averaging about 19 points per game in a PPR league. I don't know if you're in standard or half PPR or full PPR here. But if we filter by percent rostered, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is low. He's 94.5%. You might be able to snag, if you can try Javonte Williams, you're probably not getting Chubb or Aaron Jones. I would recommend looking at potentially Joe Mixon, maybe see what the Javonte Williams owner's feeling. That's probably where I would start. I would love to get Javonte Williams if I could. People are kind of iffy on Denver right now. Is Austin Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire worth Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara non-PPR? I don't think so. I would rather, at this point, I'd rather have Austin Eckler over Christian McCaffrey. I think that's you want to be a part of the Chargers offense, and you're going to see the Chargers start to score more touchdowns with the running backs. I don't think any running back has scored for the Chargers yet. And I listened to Austin Eckler on the Yahoo podcast today. Touchdowns will come, guys. Touchdowns will come. He's hitting his floors right now. He's a consistent 70 to 100 yards, without the touchdown. Touchdowns will come. So what's good here? This is a good one. Knox, Ingram, or Taysom Hill. So I did see Dawson Knox on the did not practice list. Let's click on the practice report link here for Buffalo. Let's look here. So not practicing today. Their defense got banged up the other night. So no Micah Hyde, no Dane Jackson, of course. But Dawson Knox, questionable with the foot. I'm not sure what this is about. I don't like it when my players don't practice. So we'll have to monitor this throughout the week. I think right now it's probably Evan Ingram. That's probably your best opportunity here. And I just want to look at fantasy points allowed real quick. I want to see what the Chargers have been doing against tight end. Let's see here. So tight end, the Chargers. Chargers are, I mean, they've allowed 11 for 142 against tight end. I know they played Travis Kelce, but they also played Darren Waller. So two good tight ends. I think I'm going to roll with Evan Ingram in a PPR league. That's some good value and good PPR upside there. We can't trust Taysom Hill yet. He's not really running any routes. He gets a handful of carries, but we can't really trust him. We're hitting the panic button on Kyle Pitts, right? Good evening to you, Christian. I'm going to give it one more week. I think his usage is good. Like he's out there running routes. The targets are just not there. I think he's got 10 targets through 2 games. I know he's gotten 19 yards in both games. I'm willing to teams have to take account for Drake London now. London's had 2 awesome games to start his career. And going up against the Seattle Seahawks this week, I think you might see some good numbers for Kyle Pitts. So I'm open to him having a good week. And if it's another, sub 5-point PPR game, then we can panic. But I'm willing to go back to the well one more time. I think the only way I bench Kyle Pitts is if you have, say you have Kyle Pitts, you drafted him in the 3rd or the 4th round, whatever. There's a reason why he's still well owned. Like you would have to have drafted, a Zach Ertz, a Freiermuth, a Higby. If you have one of those, I'm okay with benching Pitts until he proves it. But otherwise, I think I'm going to keep rolling with Kyle Pitts. What did you think of Lazard's performance? Good question. I thought Lazard played well enough. It was also his first game back from an ankle injury, so I don't know if there's going to be an increase of snaps and targets and usage and things like that. But the Packers didn't really have they didn't really have to throw the ball a lot in a game coming up against the Buccaneers, where it's going to be more competitive of a game. The Packers clearly came into that game against the Bears like, we're going to run the ball. Like Jones and Dillon had a ton of touches last week. So Lazard, in a full PPR league, I know it's a little disappointing to see 2 for 13, only 3 targets. It's concerning, but I do think he's a wide receiver 3 flex. I would expect him to be more busy this weekend, as again, the Packers are probably gonna have to throw. They might be in more 3rd down situations. So I do like Lazard, and if anyone's gonna catch a touchdown, as a receiver, it's probably Lazard. Let's go. PPR, Gabe, Bateman, or Juju. I did see Gabe Davis practice today, so that's a very good sign. I think the Buffalo Bills did a really smart decision by not playing him on Monday Night Football. They clearly didn't need Gabe Davis to blow out the Titans, so I'm leaning towards Gabe Davis being the guy here. I like Rashad Bateman. I don't know if lightning can strike 3 times in a row, though. He's had 2 massive big touchdown plays. Otherwise, I don't want to risk, getting a 2 for 20 game from Bateman, but I do realize that Bateman's got a really high ceiling. Juju, after the solid week 1, the disappointing week 2, I'm fine with leaving Juju on my bench and letting him prove it to us. So if Gabe plays, I'm going to go Gabe. If Gabe can't go, I'll go Bateman. KC offense is OP, crazy how good. KC offense is fun, and I think what's interesting to note, though, was that Charger game. The Chargers defense is good, guys. The Chargers really limited them last week in terms of fantasy points. I wish I could see the last year. Mahomes only 17 points. Edwards-Helaire 15. He was the leader from the flex position, but they limited Kelce. No receiver had over double digits. I think you're going to see the Chiefs return back to their week 1 self almost. So, and yeah, Evan McPherson. Getting a good kicker is a really, really fun thing in fantasy. My favorite kicker is Daniel Carlson for the Raiders. Raiders kick a ton of field goals. Mike Thomas over Javonte at flex. That's a good question. I think let's pull up this tool here. I'm gonna pull up the compare tool. Mike Thomas and Javonte. So Javonte on Sunday Night Football. That does sound fun. Last week, Michael Thomas 18.5. This week, or Javonte only 9.5. In terms of consistency, I think Michael Thomas is probably that guy. You see 8 and 9 targets, in between 57 and 65 yards. Like, this is a really nice floor. I don't know if you remove the touchdown from this, you're getting 10 or 12 points from Michael Thomas. So I think I like the floor here for Mike Thomas. But we haven't seen, like, I tend to like to roll with trends. We haven't seen Javonte Williams score a touchdown yet. And last week against Houston, Javonte pulled away from Melvin Gordon in carries, in routes and snaps and things like that. So if you like this floor of Javonte, about 9, again, they played Houston, 75 yards rushing, only 1 for 10 as a receiver. I would bet he gets more than 1 catch this week. I'm open to Javonte having a good game against the 49ers, maybe getting a touchdown in this one. So technically, this is a really good problem to have. This means you have a good team. You drafted well, so congrats on that. I think for me, I like to watch my players on Sunday Night Football. Broncos need a win. They need to look good too. So I think there's probably more points implied in that game. So I'm going to lean Javonte, but they're really both good options, man. Michael Thomas is probably the safer floor, but I like rooting for Javonte. Irv Smith or Tyler Higby? This is a great question. Both tight ends that probably were not drafted as starters week 1, but here we are. Let me pull up the compare tool for these guys. So Higby's been off to a really hot start. I think the absence of the absence of Van Jefferson has really opened things up for Higby to be the number 3 target, and technically he's been the number 2 target through 2 games. He's been out targeting Allen Robinson. So 11 and 9 targets. That's 20 on the year. 5 for 39, 7 for 71, like 8.9 to 14. That's a nice range of outcomes. And then when you look at his opponent this week, going up against the Arizona Cardinals, they've allowed 19 catches, 212 yards, and 3 touchdowns to the tight end. Now, I know they played Kelsey and Darren Waller, but if the elite tight ends are scoring on the Arizona Cardinals, I would consider Tyler Higby an above average, a pretty solid tight end. I think he's going to have an above average tight end day. So I'm going to say Tyler Higby here. I want to see it with Irv Smith. I still don't trust it. We're hoping he gets more snaps and more routes and more usage and things like that. But I think you have a cupcake matchup with Higby. I'm going to go with Higby. And yeah, Higby, man, I don't know how much percent owned he is right now. Let's see here. 76% rostered. He went up 26% over the last 7 days. So he is the guy that everyone, if you didn't get a good tight end early, everybody cashed in and went for Higby. So he is the answer. Andrew Bauer, good evening, sir. If you have Judy, do you pick up another Bronco receiver as insurance or place someone else on your bench? The Broncos, man, they don't really have a third receiver. Technically, like their third and fourth receivers are probably like Javonte, Melvin. Like that's probably where you're at. In terms of like targets and routes run, I don't know if Hamler's going to play. I'm going to assume no. And we know Tim Patrick's gone. It might be this Montrell Washington. Let me hit the last here. Who was there? Eric's, like they use the tight ends too much. There's Tyree Cleveland, Kendall Hinton. I don't see any fruit here. I think the only guy that I would want to start is Cortland Sutton if Judy can't go. So that's probably where I'll say. If you're looking for a Sunday night guy, I don't know if there's a receiver out there for you. There's just really not enough depth at both teams. Snag Higby as a security blanket, but should I start him over Pitts? I think you do. That's perfect, Christian. You did a really good job snagging Tyler Higby, and now you have insurance, man. I think you should cash in on Tyler Higby's awesome matchup this week. If Kyle Pitts does well on your bench, cool. That means we can begin to trust him a little bit more. So I think you roll with Higby. You don't even think it. Don't think twice. So what if Kyle Pitts has a better game than Higby? That's okay. That's a good news, for the future. That means we can trust him. So I'm going to go with Higby over Kyle Pitts. Zeke Pollard, kind of scared. Let's look at those guys here. So on the season, Tony Pollard's got 24 fantasy points to Ezekiel Elliott's 11.8. Ezekiel Elliott's only got 5.9 points in back-to-back weeks. So I'm slightly concerned here. The thing that I like, though, I like the volume, the 50 yards rushing. They're going to try and get him the ball. I appreciate that. I don't know what's up with the negative reception yards. That's a little strange to me. But I'm going to say, he's got Washington and the Giants, Giants and then Washington the next 2 games. So I'm willing to maybe be surprised here, and hopefully he returns to double digits. But I'm really close to hitting the panic button. And I actually like, if you had, say you had Zeke and Pollard both on your team, I think I'm starting Pollard over him. He just looks better. And I think last week Cooper Rush really relied on Tony Pollard in the passing game. So if you're telling me Pollard's going to get 6 to 9 rushing attempts and 2 to 4 catches, I probably would feel pretty good about that. And it is the Giants. I know the Giants are 2-0, but I think Tony Pollard probably has a little bit more juice at this point right now. So I'm still in on Pollard, beginning to pump the brakes on Zeke. Is Prescott a good stash pickup? I have Jalen Hurts. I mean, you're as long as Hurts is healthy, you're never gonna probably start Dak Prescott. I think Hurts is that good. Like in terms of MVP race, it's probably Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts right now. Those are two of the top players at the position. So I don't mind stashing Dak. I think the best thing to do with Dak is if your league is if it has an IR spot, you see he's got the red O. If you have an IR spot, I'm fine with stashing him. I wouldn't cut someone on your bench that has a chance to be in your lineup. Maybe like if you're considering like flexing them or something, I wouldn't drop that player. But if you have the room for it, like I'm cool with stashing Dak because it does keep another team from getting a good QB. Michael Thomas or CeeDee Lamb? That's a good question. I think I'm going to go with Michael Thomas. And I know CeeDee looked good. He looked pretty good. I mean, 7 for 75 last week on 11 targets. I feel pretty good about this, but he's got this, to me, like a 4.9, and I know most of that was from Dak, and then a 15.1. I feel like his range of outcomes is a little bit greater, where I know Thomas is going to get his 8 to 10 targets. He's going to catch the ball 5 or 6 times. I kind of just know what I'm getting with Michael Thomas, so I'm going to roll with MT over Lamb. Dylan or Jacobs? That's a good one. That is a very good question. Let me get the compare tool up here, because I'm starting to think Jacobs could be someone that we're interested in here as a RB2. So both guys, let's see here. Dylan's got 28 points on the year. Jacobs about 17. Last week, Jacobs got 9.1 to Dylan's 7.7. Let's see what Jacobs did in terms of volume. So 10 carries week 1, 19 carries week 2, and a catch in each game. So he's got a floor of 8 to 9 points. I'm comfortable with that. I would say his floor looks pretty good right now. And they're playing Tennessee. And we would expect the Raiders to probably beat Tennessee, which means if the Raiders are in position to win, you probably want to play Josh Jacobs that week. So I'm kind of liking Jacobs here. Now I love AJ Dillon. Absolutely love AJ Dillon, and the dude's racked up 18 carries last week and a catch for 6 yards. I think this is a really safe floor as well. His range of outcomes is 7 to 20 points here, but it's a tough matchup. I think in this situation, I'm going to take the Josh Jacobs 15 to 20 touches with the Tennessee matchup. I mean, you can see the green 29 and the red 3. I think you got to play matchups here and go with Jacobs. What is Pittman's status today? Pittman got a limited day, and it sounds like he's going to be fine here. Only one guy not practicing for them. I think it's maybe a starting or backup tackle. But Pittman Jr. limited. It sounds like he's gonna be good to go. What do we do with Dalvin Cook? I saw some coach speak today from Kevin O'Connell saying we need to get Dalvin Cook going. So I think you kind of just chalk it up as week 1. It was just the Justin Jefferson show. They couldn't really do much, but you're looking at, let me see here. Why can't I? 13 to 8, 7.6. That's kind of, so this is a bad game from Dalvin Cook. Keep that in mind. This was an awful, awful game. 7.6 is fine. I think you're probably going to get Dalvin Cook's best game this week against Detroit. So I would hope for a touchdown in this one. And he's going to hit his floor of 3-4 catches, and hopefully he racks up 100 all-purpose yards. So I'm not panicking on Dalvin Cook yet. Good evening to Jacob. Should I make a trade? I have Wentz, Henry, Dobbins, or J-Rob. Diggs, Evans, Waller, and Higgins. Using Higgins and Dobbins, J-Rob for a big RB. If not Higgins, then Evans. So you're trying to cash in on a running back here. T. Higgins is one of my favorite players, so I would hate to see him go. Right now, you're probably starting Henry and J-Rob, which I think is fine. I don't know when we're going to see J.K. Dobbins. If you could potentially trade J.K. Dobbins, I think that is interesting to me. But I like your lineup. I mean, Wentz, Henry, J-Rob, that's solid there. And then Diggs, Evans, and Higgins. I really like that. I'd be curious, Jacob, can you tell me more about your running back and your receivers on bench? I'd like to know your depth. I need to know the kind of the full roster here. But your Diggs, Evans, and Higgins is damn good. J-Rob's a running back too right now. I know Henry didn't play very well, but I think I kind of like the core here. Pick one PPR: Edmonds, Damien Harris, Allen Robinson, Bateman, or Alexander Madison. I'm in PPR. I'm looking only at Robinson and Bateman, and I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson because I have a really nice matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. And we finally saw Allen Robinson, used properly. I know the targets weren't quite there, only 5 targets, but 4 for 53 and a touchdown. I think that's a positive sign here that he's going to be more involved in the offense going forward. I'm going Allen Robinson. Pot. I'm assuming that's PPR. Higgins or Sutton and Dylan or JK? Higgins or Sutton and Dylan? Higgins or Sutton and Dylan or JK? This week, if you tell me if Jerry Jeudy doesn't practice Thursday or Friday and he's like not playing, I think Sutton's like the clear guy. He's going to be the target hog. Higgins, here's the thing, I'm big into narratives. Like the Bengals need a win, and T. Higgins is probably going to be a good game. So you're looking at 2 probably top 10, top 15 receivers in Higgins and Sutton. So I will say if we get word that Judy's probably not playing, I'll wait for Sutton. But you have 2 top 10 receivers here this week, I think. And then Dylan or JK, I don't think JK is going to play, so you might be forced to place Dylan. And even if JK plays, I'm not playing him in his first game back. I think I'll leave Javonte at flex, but how do you feel about Pittman coming off injury or Mike Thomas at receiver? You probably got to play Pittman. In a game at home, Chiefs are going to put up points. They're going to have to throw the ball. I mean, if maybe we do sit Javonte, and then you just throw Pittman and Mike Thomas in there and collect PPR. Like you kind of want to get all those receivers in there. So I guess I'm kind of pivoting now because Pittman's a top 10 receiver this week. I'm not too concerned about his injury. I think they did a smart thing with letting him rest this week, and they clearly need him. He is their offense. We saw how bad it was last week. So I think Pittman and Thomas might be your highest ceiling players. Do I keep Smith or drop him for Tyler Higby and pick up someone else in the spot for Matt Ryan? Do I keep Smith or drop him for Tyler Higby and pick up someone else in the spot for Matt Ryan? So I'm open to Irv Smith rest of season. I think Tyler Higby is the guy. If I had to choose one to roster, I want Tyler Higby. So I'm fine with that. And pick up someone else in the spot for Matt Ryan. Harris, who is your starting quarterback in that league? If you could answer that question. Because if you're just in a 1 QB league, I really don't think it's necessary to roster 2 quarterbacks until 1 or 2 weeks out from that quarterback's bye. So if Matt Ryan's just a QB2 for you, just dump him. And I'm fine with that. And if you could roster Smith and Higby, I'm totally cool with that. Is Lockett worth the start or Tony Pollard? Okay, so that's a good question. Because Tyler Lockett looked really good last week. They kind of clamped down on DK Metcalf, and with Tony Pollard, he was a really nice outlet for Cooper Rush. I mean, both these guys almost had 20 points last week. So the variance for Tyler Lockett, very similar to Tony Pollard. So 3 for 28, that's a 5.8 week 1. Don't love that. But 9 for 107 and 11 on 11 targets, like that, I'm very interested in. I don't know how much I care for the Falcons corners, but this game's at home, so I like Lockett at home. And then with Tony Pollard here, again, we're kind of talking about anywhere from 8 to 10 touches in this game here. I don't think we can bank on him getting a touchdown every game, so I'm probably going to lean with Tyler Lockett being the guy that I would play over Tony Pollard. I think I trust him a little bit more. Pollard got his touchdown. I would doubt he scores 2 touchdowns back-to-back weeks. Smith or Zach Ertz, non-PPR. Zach Ertz, easy. Zach Ertz. DJ or Brady? Daniel Jones or Brady? That Cowboys defense, guys, is pretty damn good. I'll lean with even Brady's tough because he's not going to have any receivers to throw the ball to. The Packers defense, though, I'm still not sure if it's a good defense. So let me just kind of look here at the floors. I'm really scared about that Cowboys defense. But Daniel Jones technically 13 points last week in a low scoring game, and 16. If you're Jones is the safer play here. I think Brady presents a lot of risk without his receiving core. But he does have Leonard Fournette. He's got some trusted wide receivers he's thrown to in the past, especially Brashad Perriman, Scotty Miller, Russell Gage is there now. It feels wrong to go to Daniel Jones, so I'm going to say Tom Brady. Chicago, New York Giants, or Houston defense. What was I looking for here? Let's look at the chart. So technically, the Texans are supposed to score the fewest points. And I know you kind of leaned into the Texans, in your Yahoo DFS. So essentially, like Chicago and Houston, I'm probably looking there, and I'm cool with Houston. I think that's going to be a dogfight. I don't see each team, putting up 3+ touchdowns. So I'm fine with Houston here. In PPR, I should be clearly starting the most underrated receiver in football, Kirk over Bateman, right? Yes, like this is a Christian Kirk podcast show, man. He was my number one drafted player all summer. Christian Kirk in the slot for Trevor Lawrence. It just makes sense. I want to temper expectations for this week. He's drawing the Chargers, and the Chargers slot corner Bryce Callahan, one of the best slot corners in the league. He's limited Hunter Renfrow, Juju, MVS. So it might be a little bit more difficult for Kirk, but the Jags and Doug Peterson, they move Kirk all around the formation. You might find Christian Kirk to kind of debunk the slot receivers against the Chargers. So yeah, Christian Kirk all day. PPR, yeah, all day. Jacob says Amari, Devonta, Miles Sanders, Duvernay, Garrett Wilson, and Dobbins is on my bench. Let's pull up his question from before. So he's got Henry, Dobbins, and J-Rob with Sanders on the bench. Oh, yeah, that's great. Like you got Henry, J-Rob, Sanders as your top 3. That looks pretty good. Your receivers are Diggs, Evans, Higgins, and then you also got Amari, Devonta, Garrett Wilson. Whew. And honestly, I think the guy you should trade away is probably Derrick Henry. Because I don't mind. I think you can get by with J-Rob and Sanders for now, and who knows what you get from J.K. Dobbins. But if you can turn Derrick Henry into 2 players, I'm open to that. So I don't think I'm trying to trade away Higgins. If it was one, I'd probably try and trade away Mike Evans, I suppose. But I don't know if you necessarily need to trade, my man. I think you got a good team. You're 3 deep at running back. And we're not even including J.K. Dobbins yet. Your receivers are studly. I think you could potentially, if you wanted to, I'd rather trade away Amari Cooper or Garrett Wilson right now because they just had amazing games. So I think if you're looking to make a trade, you can maybe cash in Amari and Garrett Wilson or something like that. Maybe try and trade one of those. If you could pair like Cooper with Dobbins, see what happens with that. But I would be looking to trade 2 of my bench players and try and see what I can make happen there because I like your starting group. I think it's pretty solid. So I would work with what's on the screen here and try and do a 2-for-1 instead of I think that's where I would go. Dylan or Jeff Wilson Jr.? We'll go with Jeff Wilson Jr. I think the Jimmy Garoppolo news really helps Jeff Wilson. It helps Debo. It helps all the players in that offense because now we don't have to worry about Trey Lance rushing attempts. So Jeff Wilson Jr. over Dylan. What is Juwan Johnson, Richard James, and why are they playing well? Juwan Johnson is a converted wide receiver. He's a really good tight end for the New Orleans Saints, and he bulked up this summer, this offseason, and he's blocking good. He's a solid tight end. He's definitely a sleeper tight end that if you need someone, he's worth on your bench on as your tight end too. And Richie James, man, he's kind of bounced around. I think he popped off in San Francisco, but he's a really good, fast player. He kind of made his way in special teams, and now he's translating to a pretty good slot receiver. So both fun underdog stories there. Jeb, good evening to you, my man. I'm being offered Michael Thomas for Cortland Sutton. Michael Thomas, should I accept? I currently have the stack of Javonte Williams, Sutton. Not sure how I feel about it. I'm I'm a huge Cortland Sutton guy. He's one of my favorites coming into the season. But if you kind of want to diversify, I don't mind it. I think Thomas for Sutton, that's a pretty fair trade. Both guys are, fringe wide receiver one material. If you want to get out of Denver's offense, I don't hate it. I will say this though, if Jared Jeudy doesn't play, Cortland Sutton's gonna have a big night on Sunday Night Football. But I'm okay with this. The one pause I have is Jameis Winston. He's got those 4 vertebrae things in his back. Like, is he going to last the whole season? You might be looking at Andy Dalton here. So I would tend to lean into Cortland Sutton. I think there's room for both guys here. But to me, this is like a 50-50 kind of preference call. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to spread it around and get Michael Thomas. But personally, I would keep Cortland Sutton. I'm more excited about him, because the Broncos just don't have, outside of Jeudy, they don't have any other receivers. Thomas does have to deal with Olave, Landry, Alvin Kamara. We talked about Jawan Johnson. A little bit more mouths to feed there. So I'm going to lean with trusting Cortland Sutton and Russ Wilson. Yeah, Harris, I would hold on to Irvin and Higby and just cut bait from Matt Ryan on that one. Does Garrett Wilson have any starting value over Mike T, or was it just a fluke week for him? I don't think it was a fluke. The analysis that I've been thinking on for Garrett Wilson is it purely revolves around Joe Flacco. Through 2 weeks, Joe Flacco has thrown the football 103 times. That's 103 pass attempts in 2 games. He's averaging more than 50 pass attempts per game. And if the Bengals win this week, we're likely looking at Zach Wilson in this offense next week, which they're not going to let Zach Wilson throw the ball 50 times per game. I think there's potential for Garrett Wilson numbers to come crashing down. I do think he's up there with Elijah Moore. Like, those are the top 2 receivers and the targets in this offense. Like, Wilson will still have value, but he's more, assuming that Zach Wilson's going to be starting in a week or 2, I think he's going to have a wide range of outcomes, where Michael Thomas is, he's going to be steady. So I trust Michael Thomas more than Garrett Wilson, but we'll see what happens. Again, maybe Joe Flacco wins against the Bengals. Bengals fall to 0-3. Jets move to 2-1. I think if that happens, the Jets really need to consider leaving Flacco in their lineup, and to me, that's Garrett Wilson's best hope. Greg Dortch, most underrated player in fantasy, 4% rostered. Yeah, man, he's a PPR. He's a little PPR machine. Filling in really nicely for Rondale Moore. And I think he might have earned himself a role in this offense going forward. You see 13.3% or 13.3 points and 15.5 points. So he catches the touchdown last week. He still gets 9.5 points. So he's got a pretty nice high floor here. Definitely a guy here that I think should be rostered in deeper leagues, 12-team PPR leagues. My biggest question is Higgins or Evans to trade in the package. I'd be okay with Diggs and Higgins as my wide receiver because Diggs is crazy. If I had to trade, if you're going to do the package, I want to send away Evans. I would rather be attached to Joe Burrow right now than I would be to Tom Brady. The Bucs offense just kind of gives me I'm just nervous about the Bucs. So, you got the Tom Brady, just getting older and not looking so great. Offensive line's bad. And Evans, he gets suspended for this one, and then he always seems to get some kind of soft tissue injury. So I would rather own Higgins over Evans right now. If you could trade Evans, that's the guy. Review of last week's fellowship matchups. I will pull it up here. I'm going to continue answering some questions, but let's pull those up here. Well, actually, I'll just go over these right now real quick. So I got my first W of the season, my 0 RB build with Josh Allen, Mike Williams, and Cortland Sutton pumping it out here. I beat my good friend Matt Bain, who Drake London, but I got a floor game from Justin Jefferson. So I think I'm leading the league in points. Let me look at this. No, I think I'm second in points. My brother's killing it, but I am second in points. So the zero RB works, guys. 0 RB works. The returning champion, Porsche 2-3. Falls to Justin here. Justin, Grinds it out with a 115-point game. So Mahomes and Kelsey didn't do much, but Nick Chubb led the way here. The returning champ, Porsche 2-3, Higgins, Waller, McCaffrey were his top guys. I believe this is my dad's team. 83 points, just a rough day here. He's got Jacoby Brissett as his QB, so it's a work in progress. But Ketchup and Mostert, I think I'm playing them this week. Hurts, Manders, Bateman, just busting off here, so that looks pretty fun. My brother-in-law, Team Cornelison, Tyreek, Murray, and Trevor Lawrence going up against Mariota here. Wentz, Cooper, and Mariota. But we'll take a peek at that stuff later. Let's get back to the questions. Curtis Samuel or Damien Pierce, PPR. PPR, you got to go with Curtis Samuel. He's dominating targets. He's dominating. He's just dominating right now. I think he's a huge piece of their offense, and I think it's a fair question. Like, if you could pick Curtis Samuel or Terry McLaurin right now, which one would you guys pick? I'm curious. Those of you watching in the comments, would you rather own Curtis Samuel right now or Terry McLaurin in a full PPR league? If you guys want to just type it in there, let's see who wins. Because I think I'd rather own Curtis Samuel right now. He's playing really good. He gets carries. He gets pummeled with PPR targets. 42 points on the year for Curtis and 26 for Terry McLaurin. So to me, McLaurin, he's a finesse player. I think he's more of a deep to intermediate guy, whereas Carson Wentz, he loves to look for those short, quick throws. So I think Curtis Samuel is probably the guy here, and they're scheming big plays for him too. So I'm going to say Samuel over Damien Pierce. Cooper Rush or Big Mac Hollins. Cooper Rush. Mac Hollins, we can't trust that. And yes, I do think it's time to drop Rashad Penny. Let somebody else bid on him and waste that up. Justin says no, but Penny, Justin, we gotta let it go. Rashad Penny wasn't gonna happen. It just not happening. Last week, Kenneth Walker got more points than him last week. 3.5 PPR points for Kenneth Walker. Rashad Penny, with his 6 carries, only 15 yards. We're looking at a full-blown committee, and I would bet the rookie overtakes him at some point here. So I think it's time to drop Rashad Penny. Should I pick up Browns D or Steelers D? Aiden, you got to pick up whoever you think will win tomorrow night. That's my best advice. I think the Browns will win at home. Myles Garrett's going to play. He got cleared. I would pick up the Browns. And that's a good point there too, Justin. The Steelers play the Jets next week. Is that true? Let me look here. Let's look at the Steelers. The Steelers versus the Jets in week 4. Very true. Maybe that's the move then. I mean, tomorrow's going to be a low-scoring game. Brissett does turn the ball over every now and then. That's a good observation there, Justin. I think Steelers might be the answer now. Wada, thanks for hanging out, my man. 10-team PPR. Should I offer Javonte and Evans for Jefferson? Other team has Cam Akers as RB2, and I have Clyde as backup. Yes. Do it. Yeah, if you can do this 2-for-1, I think I would do it. You can pull Clyde up. You get the best receiver in this trade here. I would do it, man. Justin Jefferson off of a bad week, he's going to keep balling out, so I would do it. Scary Terry or Myers in flex, full PPR. That one's tough, Chase. Let's see. Terry going up against the Eagles. Let me look into this. I believe he's played. I think he's gone up against Darius Slay before. If you guys don't know what StatMuse is, it's a fantastic little stat app here. But I'm going to type in Terry McLaurin versus Eagles. So these are his career games here. 2019, he had massive games, but he's been rather quiet. So last year, 7 for 61, which is a nice floor in PPR. Back in 2021, though, he didn't do much. 7 for 40. He gets a touchdown. 2 for 51. So I like McLaurin here, but now he's got more competition for targets. So that makes me pause a little bit. Whereas Jacoby Myers, I mean, last week, Myers was the real deal. He had 18.5 PPR points, whopping 13 targets, 9 for 95. His floor is 10 points against Baltimore. And keep in mind, like Baltimore, I mean, they just let Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill run rampant on them. And Jalen Waddle is their slot guy. Jacoby Myers is their slot guy. So I think there's a reasonable expectation for, a floor of 10 to 12 points and hopefully you can hit this double-digit targets again. So I think I'll paint it this way. I think Myers is the safe play. Terry McLaurin's probably the ceiling play, but I don't know if you watch that Monday night game, Eagles secondary, Darius Slay, I would imagine Darius Slay is matched up on Scary Terry. So I'm going to lean Myers here. And yeah, that was a 2 QB league. I'll pull it up here. Go back to the scoreboard. I just wanted to show you guys what do we got here. Aiden's team, let's see here. Aiden's in this team. He ended up losing 88 to 154. He just got spanked by Lamar and Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Christian Kirk. Like, that's a strong trio right here. But look at my brother's team. He had Diggs, Waddle, and Tua. Unbelievable. 212 points. Very nice high score here. So, yeah, that's a 2 QB league. You start 2 flexes as well. So, it's a lot of fun. More points, more problems, all that good stuff. What defenses are you loving this week? I have Eagles, but feeling about them. I have Panthers. Falcons, Chargers. Yes, sir. So I have these charts here, and I filtered this chart right here. It says team total. Teams at the top here, they're projected to score more points. Teams at the bottom are not projected to score as much. And these teams right here, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Bucks, Bengals, Saints, Bears, Giants, Cleveland Browns, I think these guys are all valid starts this week. Basically from Pittsburgh on down, I would trust these teams because their point totals are really low. That's what the red means. It means there's not going to be a lot of points in them. They're just not going to have a great offensive output. So I think the Chargers, really good defense. They've stifled Carr and Mahomes. And Chase, next week the Chargers play the Texans, so you get a two week rental for them. Harris has taken Terry, and that's my stance there. I'm taking Curtis because Wentz is known to like the dinks and the dunks. Also, Michael Carter in my RB2 spot. I have Dylan on my bench. How do you feel about this? If this is full PPR, I want Michael Carter in there. So as long as it's full PPR, Michael Carter is where you want to be. Pick up Jeff Wilson non-PPR. Yes, sir. We need now that the team is back to Jimmy Garoppolo, the running back floor is better because they're going to continue to give them carries. Trey Lance is not going to run the ball, 10, 12 times per game. There's going to be more opportunity for the running backs as well as Deebo Samuel. So Jeff Wilson is an essential player at this point. Kenny looked good, but they don't seem to trust him. Also have Browns defense if Eagles aren't better. I dropped Browns yesterday because Miles was questionable. Yeah, he's going to play. But again, if you can get the Chargers, man, that's probably where I'm going to sit with. Even last week, the Jags, there was their best effort, and we might traveling West Coast. We might see them kind of fall back a little bit, but I can't see the Jags scoring more than 17, 20 points, maybe a couple turnovers from Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, stat news. Nyheim Hines, baby. He's catnip for me with the PPR machine. And I know he had a bad game last week, but their entire team had a bad game. I'll take my 7 to 11 points as my RB2 because I know the rest of my team's going to hit. Myers did not practice today. I think the concern with that would be if he does not if he doesn't practice tomorrow, I'll be concerned. But I would probably lean towards him being good to go. I didn't hear anything too serious, but we'll monitor that. Good catch. Half my team died. 4 people under 5. I traded Aaron Jones and Shepard for Deebo. Thoughts? I mean, Shepard doesn't really have much value, so I don't mind this trade. Jones for Deebo. I think Deebo's going to be the more consistent player. And now that Jimmy G is back, I think Deebo's value goes up. So I think it's a good trade. As a Packer fan, Aaron Jones is the real deal, but sometimes it's weird because they just kind of forget to use Aaron Jones. So I think for a consistency standpoint, Deebo is the good move there. And assuming your running backs are pretty deep, added to the receiver position, I like it. Jeff Wilson or stash Chargers non-PPR. That one's tough. Harris, if you're gonna pick up Jeff Wilson and you have 3 or 4 running backs ahead of him that you're comfortable with putting in there at your RB2 spot. I don't know if you need Jeff Wilson. And what's more valuable? Like sometimes a defense will swing your matchup for you. So I always like to hold 2 defenses in those leagues. So I think the Chargers might be of more use to you in your lineup this week and next week. I'm gonna hit the panic button on all the Titans. Panic button on the Titans. If you watched my summer prep and all the mock drafts and stuff, I wasn't drafting Derrick Henry. To me, the writing was kind of on the wall. You're talking about a player who's getting up there in age, and he's been a volume runner for most of his career. 300 plus carries every season, basically. He's also coming off a significant foot injury, and the Titans massively downgraded their receiving core, and as well as their offensive line. And I think Taylor Lewan might be out for the season too. So I'm fully hitting the panic button for the Titans. I think when you think about the Titans, like my mind instantly goes to when will we see Malik Willis starting for the Titans? So I'm nervous about Derrick Henry. I think I'm willing to sell low right now. If you can cash in, someone for Derrick Henry, let's take a peek here and see what we could potentially get. Because I don't know how many games this team's going to win this year, and that's been Henry's recipe, is like he gets volume in games where they're going to win. So for me, if I could cash in Derrick Henry for a Javonte and Aaron Jones, I mean, I'd take at this point, I'd even take a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe that's probably as low as I would go. But if you can shop Derrick Henry, just throw it out to your league. Say, hey, come get Derrick Henry. That might be the way to go. Who's hating Trevor? Who's hating on Trevor? Trevor was super efficient. Took advantage of the Colts without Shaq Leonard. I think it's time to move on. That doesn't bother me as much, Chase, because the Packers' game plan is to feed Jones and Henry, or to feed Jones and Dylan. So I don't hate having both on my team. But if you can get Aaron Jones for Derrick Henry, I think you do it in a heartbeat. If you can get Javonte Williams, I do it in a heartbeat. Maybe see what the Austin Eckler guy is thinking. Maybe see what the Dalvin Cook guy is thinking, because you could buy low on Dalvin Cook right now. You got to think like that. Who else could I potentially buy low on? And we're looking at percent roster here. So like Dalvin Cook, Eckler, these guys have kind of disappointed, for a couple games here. I would look at some of those guys, but Cook, Eckler, Jones, Javonte, players like that, that's where you want to be. Curtis Samuel over Deontay Johnson. I think so. I like Deontay Johnson, but he could have a nice game tomorrow night, sure. But I'm trusting Curtis Samuel. He's had back-to-back 20-point games. Deontay, safe floor, he'll get me 10 to 12 points, but I think I'm going to go for the hammer with Curtis Samuel. Thoughts on J-Rob and Etn? Good question. Good question. So, James Robinson he's back. Like he's going to be a steady RB2. He's going to rack up the volume here. In terms of the rotation with ETN, they're still kind of splitting time. In PPR leagues, ETN has developed a nice 8-point floor, so I still like him as a low-end RB2, especially if you went into a running back. But James Robinson's the touchdown guy. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to get the high-value touches, and I think both guys are startable. And when you're looking at the Chargers this week, I would expect James Robinson to approach his 12 to 15 carries. Last week he got 23, but again, that was a blowout here. I think his floor is 12 to 15 carries, 1 to 2 catches. Say he doesn't get the touchdown, he's still going to be 8 to 10 point floor. So I like both guys. I'm excited about the Jags offense. I get over Jones PPR. Yep, Curtis Samuel PPR. I drafted Terry in round 3, and he's getting less points than all the other receivers. Plus, he's still the guy getting all the good corners on him. Do you think he'll still be a top wide receiver? I don't think so. I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with him being put on probably the team's top cornerback every week. And Carson Wentz's nature to kind of dink and dunk. He's also got a big tight end that he looks for in the middle of the field. In the past, Washington, they've only had Terry McLaurin. Like they haven't had a number 2 receiver for the last 3 years. And now we're talking the exciting rookie Jahan Dotson. We're talking Curtis Samuel. You're talking Logan Thomas, and you still have to deal with McKissick and Gibson. So I think I'm nervous about Terry McLaurin. I don't know. I consider him as a wide receiver 3. So to me, he's more in the wide receiver 25 to 30 range at the moment right now in my rankings. The Chargers defense is really good, Aiden, and Trevor Lawrence does have tendencies to turn the ball over in bunches. He's shown that to us in the past. The Chargers have shut down Derek Carr in the Raiders, and the Chargers defense won that, pretty much should have won the game for the Chiefs. Like, they held the Chiefs to 17 points. I would be shocked if another team this year holds them to that much offensive points. Chargers defense is the Chargers are a good play this week. Pick one non-PPR: James Robinson, AJ Dillon, Clyde, Marquise, Amari Cooper. Pick one non-PPR. I think you're going to roll with James Robinson, kind of for the things we talked about. He's locked into 12 to 15 touches. If someone's going to get a touchdown in that offense, it looks like it's either him or Christian Kirk at the moment. And the way to perform well against the Chargers is to run the ball. So if there's an outcome there, I think James Robinson probably is your best bet. But on the other hand, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably the hot hand right now. Going up against the Colts, let's roll with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I meant all of the receivers I'm watching for Mclaurin. Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's too much competition for Mclaurin right now to be a top 10, top 15 receiver. He still has that, that weekly outcome, but I think his floor is significantly less. Should I bench Johnson for Damien Harris, Damien Pierce, Michael Carter, or Alan Lazard PPR? No, I think I would stick to Deontay Johnson if that's who we're referring to. I would say I'm looking at Deontay Johnson or Michael Carter in full PPR. So I'll keep Deontay out there. He's getting the targets. He's playing well. J-Rob all day, maybe ETN this week. Yes, I think it's an ETN week. If you're looking to start ETN, I think it's going to be a good week for him. Good evening to Eric. Christian Kirk for Rashad Bateman. Nope. In full PPR, I want Christian Kirk. Rashad Bateman's been nice, but we've seen 2 ceiling games from him. I mean, you take away those deep touchdowns, and he's not looking like a huge target hog, whereas Christian Kirk, the clear target hog in that offense. So I in a full PPR league, I want Christian Kirk on my team. I understand that. I understand that, but we got to put some respect on the Chargers defense, for sure. Good evening to Ryan. We'll hang out. I mean, we're going on about 53 minutes here, so I'll hang out for another 5-7 minutes. If you guys got more questions, keep firing them up. I was going to kind of go over some of the player news and things like that, but I think nothing crazy happened today. Hawkinson limited today. A couple of the Packers receivers were limited. Watkins, Lazard, and Watson. Rashad Perriman limited. Like, pretty much everybody in the Bucs-Packers game limited. I don't think anything stood out today. It's so bizarre. J.K. Dobbins, he's practicing in full, but then John Harbaugh is saying he's week to week. I don't get it. So Adam Thielen, I wasn't drafting Adam Thielen this summer. I get nervous about, receivers getting up there in age. I think he's 32 now. And Kirk Cousins, like, he clearly has eyes for Justin Jefferson. Like, he's going to be the main read on almost every play. So when that happens, you're looking for Jefferson on a typical route. He's the first read. And then if he's not open, Cousins will typically look for the outlets, whether it's the tight end or the running back or someone in the flat or something like that. So I think that's the problem right now, is Justin Jefferson has just fully gotten Kirk's attention, that it's hard for him to find Thielen on the second or the third read. So I mean, as a Packer fan, I watched the first entire Vikings game, and then I watched the Vikings on Monday Night Football. And I think the problem on Monday night was the pass rush for Philly kept getting to him, and the corners were just so good. He had trouble throwing it on the outside. So I think this week, if Thielen's going to get back on track, this is probably the week to do it. It's against an old friend, Detroit Lions. It's at home. I think Thielen will be better. I like the volume in the second half for Thielen, but I think he's more of a wide receiver 3 flex. He's not necessarily a must start anymore, if that helps. So a little bit nervous on Thielen. Let's take a peek. So Aiden put up, I think it was 88 points in this matchup here. Again, this is a super flex league. Let me see. Aiden gets, well, you got Herbert, so that's going for you. But Wilson with 11. Starting Kenyon Drake is never fun. Kyle Pitts, oh my goodness. Oh my, you got Swift and Herbert going for you on the bench though. Losing Elijah, Zach in the bag here. The team's a little young. I think you need a little bit more juice. Maybe work the waiver wire. I don't know. I don't know if Isaiah McKenzie's worth rostering. Sky Moore's probably not worth rostering. Kenyon Drake not worth rostering. Aiden's got some work to do, my man. I saw Lenny. I think you're referring to the tweet that said touchdowns will be coming soon. We'll see. I would imagine this weekend. I'm assuming Leonard Fournette's going to be the focal point of the Bucs' offensive game plan. So look for a lot of Leonard Fournette this week, and I would feel good about him scoring a touchdown. And I think that'd be the first touchdown of the year for him as well. I just wanted to kind of double back and look at any other player reports here. So I'm not sure. So Myers underwent testing, which showed nothing significant on Wednesday. He didn't appear limited by the knee issue in week 2. So something to monitor here. Maybe he just got the day off. Would you trade away Henry for CMC? Oh yes, if you can get Christian McCaffrey for Derrick Henry, I think you do that. Like do it like right away. That's to me that's a no-brainer. Especially if it's PPR league, that's a no-brainer. If you can get CMC, let's do it. Yeah, touchdowns coming. He's probably going to get 1 or 2 against the Packers this week. I'm in talks with that owner, and he has CMC and Aaron Jones. He's interested in Henry. I mean, if you have to sweeten the pot, if you have to throw him one of your receivers, I'm kind of looking back up here at your team. Let me see, where is the team? If you have to throw in somebody, I think I'm okay with it, but he wants Henry and Bateman for CMC. Just text me. Henry and Bateman for CMC. You have Rashad Bateman on that team? I mean, it sucks to lose Bateman, but I think, yeah, Sutton, Diggs, Evans, Bateman, Hopkins, and Boyd. Damn, that's tough. Would he settle for Hopkins? I think I would do it if you can. That's too much to ask, man. To get a stud receiver and a stud running back for the stud running back. I would try getting Hopkins in the trade. If you can do Hopkins and Henry for CMC, I think that's where I would do it. What trade value does Mclaurin even have after a good game? So the good news is, like, McLaurin's he's played okay. He's just not having those ceiling games quite yet. So let's take a look at this. Terry McLaurin currently, did I miss him? So he's currently wide receiver 31. He's averaging, 13 points per game, about 12 points. Yeah, 13 points per game, 4 targets and 8 targets, 4 for 75. And these might be floor games. He might be actually looking really, really good in a couple of weeks, but going up against Philly and Dallas, I worry about his value the next couple games. I think you're probably looking at players within his range here. If you could flip Terry McLaurin, and I'm also considering, like, you drafted him probably in the 4th round. So I'm thinking of other players in that range that maybe haven't popped yet. I think if you can get a T. Higgins, I think I'm going to do that. I think if you could get CeeDee Lamb, I think I'm fine with that because we know Dak Prescott's coming back soon. So that intrigues me a little bit. I'm open to Allen Robinson being the target if you wanted to cash in on that. But definitely Higgins. Definitely, go check the Higgins and the CeeDee Lamb owner, see how they're feeling. Go and see what the Cortland Sutton. If you can get Cortland Sutton for Terry McLaurin, I think I'm open to that. Michael Thomas. If you can get Christian Kirk, I'm open to that. Someone might think they're selling high. I want Christian Kirk on my team. Something like that. I think you got to think about, you're selling a 4th-round wide receiver. You kind of want to cash in on some of those guys that maybe went a round or 2 later on him. And yeah, I hate losing Bateman because he's a damn good receiver. I'm hoping you could get, maybe you could add someone off the waiver wire and kind of bolster your receiver room to hold you over while Hopkins is there. Because I mean, Diggs and Sutton are dogs. Evans is out this week. Chase, who's available on your waiver wire? Who would you trade Adams for? I mean, technically, with a guy like Devontae Adams, I think the only players you can't get are probably this top 6. Diggs, Kupp, Tyreek. Someone's not probably trading away Amon-Ra St. Brown right now, Waddle, Jefferson. I think these guys are kind of off limits. If you can get one of these guys for them, go ahead and do it. But if you can flip him for Jamar Chase, if you can flip him for A.J. Brown, I mean, you're talking Devontae Adams, top 5 receiver in your draft. You can pretty much get anybody for him. I mean, I'm willing to go down as far as probably Deebo Samuel, maybe. I really like AJ Brown. I think you're looking at pretty much getting anyone you want outside of Kupp, Diggs. I mean, look at this. He's the number 3 ranked receiver in terms of percent rostership. I would check on the Jamar Chase, check on the Justin Jefferson. Just ask basically anybody in this top 10. Hey, do you want Devontae Adams? Let's make a deal. And if you could flip him for 2 receivers, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. You could probably flip Devontae for someone like Terry McLaurin and a Cortland Sutton, things like that. I don't mind getting 2 players back for Devontae. Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Let's go get Christian McCaffrey, pick up Godwin, and call it a day. Julio, Hardman, Rondale, Zay, Jones, Lazard. Lazard should probably be owned. I think if it were me, I think you send Henry and Bateman, you collect CMC, and then you pick up Godwin right away. If Godwin still has the out on his team or on his thing, and you have Evans too, so you're playing fully with the Bucks offense. You think having him and Godwin is a problem? They've coexisted before. I don't know if I hate it, but otherwise, I mean, I think Lazard's worth a pickup too. He's kind of the number 1 receiver for the Packers. He caught the touchdown last week. He's going to get more and more work going forward. So I kind of like. I like Lazard. I like Godwin. But say you do pick up Godwin and we wait and see how he looks a little bit. You might have a trade partner for Evans and Godwin down the line too. So, I think Godwin's, the name brand receiver you want on your bench. So I don't mind picking up Godwin here. And again, say something happens. Evans and Godwin have both had injuries in the past. If one of them gets hurt, you have the other player. So I think I'm fine with that. But anyways, we're running past an hour here. I'm going to get out of here for the evening. Tomorrow night, we have football. I'm going to go live at 6:30 Central Time. So we'll cover over some more of the news and things like that tomorrow. If you guys do have any more questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me on Twitter. My DMs are always open there. Comment on the video. Subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys like the new format. I kind of just wanted to just give you guys as much time as I could for questions. So I hope you guys have a good evening. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night. Peace.